I know you see things through the rubric of game theory, and I'm wondering if maybe you could give us the high level view of where you see things going in terms of geopolitical calamity. Are we heading into World War III? What does that look like to you? And how do we understand that through the prism of game theory?
I think the next 5 years, there'll be two major flashpoints in the world. The first will be the Middle East, of course. I'm expecting within the next week or 2 weeks for Israel to resume airstrikes against Iran. And in round two, we expect that the fighting will be much more sustained, much more fierce. And eventually, I think this will culminate in a ground invasion, American ground invasion of Iran. So I think
Hmm.
that is one major flashpoint that will be consistent for the next 5 years and something that we must watch very, very closely. I think that as this war in Iran continues to ramp up, Israel will be more extreme in its behavior. So one thing that we should look out for is the possibility that the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem will be destroyed. Now, as you know, the Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third holiest site in Islam. And if it is destroyed in order to make way for the building of the third temple, then we can see massive discontent throughout the Islamic world. And this may cause actually revolutions within the Islamic world. Places like Jordan are particularly vulnerable to a revolution right now.
Apparently, the news just came in that there was more THAAD deployments,
Hmm.
another four launchers. And
Yes.
so to me, that's kind of the setup. And you have all this tanker activity right now, these KC-135s flying around Europe. We've
Yeah.
seen a lot of signaling and misdirection prior to the last Iranian attack on Iran. So what makes you think that it's going to be in the next few weeks? I mean, today Trump and Netanyahu came out and said, "Hey, we got this. It's going to be eternal peace in the Middle East," they're saying. So problem solved, right? Isn't the situation resolved now as a result of this?
Right. So first of all, we have to be very suspicious of what Trump and Netanyahu say, right? Because
Yeah,
remember
I'm
that
being just so for the record,
I
everybody
understand. I
knows.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sarcasm. Yeah.
Right. So, right before Trump attacked Iran, there was peace negotiations,
Yeah.
right? So it was almost like they caught Iran off guard, or they were taking advantage of Iran. So I think that right before they strike, they want to present an image of as a peacemaker. And I don't know why they do this. Maybe it's because it's a joke. Maybe they think it's really funny that they do this. They have all these inside jokes among them. I mean, it's really like
Right.
within a cult what they do. But the signs are pretty obvious. So certain signs is that Iran themselves have come out and said that they expect to be attacked within the next week. Russia, TASS, the news agency, have said that they expect Iran to be attacked. Recently, Iran has paid off all its outstanding obligations to IMF. So its overseas debt has been cleared. Iran was removed from the SWIFT system. And as you say, there's all this military buildup. So I just feel like all these things are just massive signals to us that an attack is being prepared. And I think the last step is for Trump to meet with his generals, which is expected sometime this week. I'm not sure what the date is,
Yeah.
but as you
Tomorrow,
talked
actually.
about, okay,
Like,
tomorrow, but this is
yeah, our tomorrow, your today,
right.
September
So
30th.
So, so, so we, as you said many times, this is unprecedented, and this is a major signal that something big is happening. Now, there have been different rumors. There's rumors of a purge because the military is top heavy. You've got like 44-star generals for about 1.32 million combat soldiers. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you can expect downsizing. But there's also rumors that these officers, these generals, will have to swear loyalty to Trump rather than Constitution. I don't think that's likely, but it's also possible. But I think that no matter how you analyze it, the groundwork is being laid for a massive campaign somewhere. Maybe it's Venezuela, maybe it's Iran. I expect both places actually. But I think they're calling for the meeting because they want to prepare the military bureaucracy for a conflict.
I don't think it's historically precedented to call all of your generals into one place. They're going to, I think, put on a public show, but I think there's also going to be obviously something that happens behind the scenes that we don't see. And whatever is discussed at that meeting, I think will is really the pith of what is going on there.
Well, I think that Hegseth and Trump will send a signal, which is play ball or you will be purged. It's that simple. So I think that what people don't appreciate is that the military has become a bureaucracy. And these are bureaucrats who are interested in maintaining their privileges. And so they're going to play along. So even though in their hearts they know that attacking Iran or Venezuela will be detrimental to the American Republic and to the American military, they're still going to play along because they're bureaucrats and they're interested in maintaining their privileges. And that's what Trump understands about the mentality of the bureaucracy today.
What do you think is their motivation for Iran? Do you believe that the last strike, as many experts are claiming, was unsuccessful on the Fordow facility, and they're genuinely concerned about Iran being a threshold nuclear state? Is it strictly about oil? Is it about regional dominance? Is it about China and the fact that China is heavily reliant on oil from Iran? What do you think the main motivation for Iran is?
Okay, so I think that there are dozens of reasons why they're doing this, but I will just highlight the three main reasons. Okay, the first main reason is in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. What I mean by that is the American empire, its power comes from the perception that it is the greatest military in the world, that is able to defeat all opponents. And after the fall of the Soviet Union, that was very much true. And that's why people invested in America. That's why they bought the petrodollar. They had no choice in the matter, because if you didn't do this, if you didn't play along, America could come and invade you. But after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, people now have a sense that there's this new power on the block. There's this new kid on the block who's just as powerful. He might be younger, he might be smaller, but he's really, really aggressive. And so the bully, the head, he must demonstrate to everyone that he still got it. So going and bombing Iran, bombing to submission, destroying a country, it's a signal to the rest of the world, I'm still the hegemon. Okay, so I think that's the main reason. And another reason is, if you just look at a map of Iran, it is the center of the world in terms of trade. And if you look at all these proposed trade alliances, so for example, China has Belt and Road. Russia has something called a north-south corridor. Well, you look at all these trade routes, it all goes through Iran. So if you're able to control Iran, you're able to control all trade. And historically, that's a source of empire's power, the ability to collect tolls on trade routes. Okay, so that's the second reason. The third reason is eschatological. All right, so I might need some time to explain this, but go back to 9/11. After 9/11, Wesley Clark, who was a general, he told Amy Goodman on stage that he had received secret confidential plans about America's plans after 9/11. And the plan was to go to the Middle East and basically destroy every single country. There were 7 countries on the list. They destroyed 6. There's one country on the list. There's one last country on the list, and it's Iran. So I don't know. So there's really no explanation why they have to do this, but it seems they've had this plan for the past 20 years of going to the Middle East and just destroying that region and making Israel the dominant power in that region. And there's only one more power left, and that's Iran. So I feel as though they feel that they've invested so much, 20 years, and they're so close to the finish line. And Iran is the last boss in this video game they're playing. Yeah. Like, who knows? But they want to finish it. So then the question is, why are they doing this? And as I say, it's eschatological. It's religious. So there are certain religious factions in America. Okay, and I'll just name them. Okay, these are the Christian Zionists, the evangelical Christians. You have the Mormons. You have extremist Jews. You have the Freemasons. Okay, so you have these different religious factions that are in control of the national security apparatus in America. They control the CIA. They control the FBI. They control the military. I mean, these are extremely powerful people. And in their vision of eschatology, in And they believe that by if they're able to work out certain events, if they are able to create a World War III, if they make Jerusalem the capital of the world, then this will bring about the second coming, the return of Jesus. There are different
Do you think
variations.
that do you think though that these elites is that just something they leverage? Like, is that just something that do they genuinely believe that, or do they just pretend to believe that so that they can get the support of their followers?
That is a great question. And this is something I've been wrestling with for many, many years now. And I've been doing a lot of research, and I have to say this, but unfortunately, they really do believe this. And the root of this goes back to the British Empire. You go to the 17th century, this idea of Christian Zionism, what's happening in the Middle East. This was all conceived, developed, scripted by Isaac Newton in his secret societies, the Freemasons, in the 17th century. And why this is important is eventually these Freemasons came over to America and they built the American empire in order to achieve this eschatological vision. So I understand this sounds crazy and it doesn't make any sense. But if you actually do the research, then you recognize that these people are deadly serious. And there's really no other explanation except that they really believe what they believe. And I'll give
So
you an example.
what do they think they're going to get out of this second coming? Like, do they think they're going to be adorned with a better seat at the eternal table, or like what is the
So different religious sects have different beliefs. Okay, so you look at the Freemasons. They want to create the Messianic age because they want to create a world government. They want to create heaven on earth. They want to negate the possibility of heaven. They just want to create a world government. Okay, so that's the Freemasons. And now of course, sorry, I'm simplifying this for the audience. Okay,
yeah.
it's much more complicated than that, but that's the Freemasons. And you have the evangelical Christians, the Christian Zionists. They believe that the second coming, Jesus will return, and there'll be a rapture. So they'll all be ascended to heaven, and then Jesus will convert the Jews to Christianity, and this will usher in 1,000 years of peace before the last judgment. Okay, then you have the Jews, these religious extremist Jews. They believe that Jesus will not return because they don't believe in Jesus, but the Messiah will come at a time of need, and he will enslave the Christians, and he will make Israel the dominant power in the world. All power will be centered in Jerusalem. So these are the three major sects. You have the Mormons as well. So they believe different things, okay? But they all want the same result, which is to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque and make Jerusalem the world capital and usher in World War III. Those are the
So
three things.
Islam is a hindrance to this plan. It's an
Um,
obstacle.
right. So Islam would be the Antichrist in this scenario, right? So there are different enemies that this world government and based in Jerusalem would face. Islam would be one enemy, but also Putin and the Orthodox Church would be another enemy. And these are the two major enemies that they would confront at the end of days.
And so this is like the Gog versus Magog
It's a war of
dialectic,
Gog and Magog. Yeah, right,
right?
right.
Okay.
And it's a war against the Antichrist as well. So again, different traditions will conceive Gog and Magog differently, the Antichrist differently, but they all want the same things, which is the destruction of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, a world war, and the building of a third temple.
And just so people are clear, like you're speaking to this from the perspective of an academic who, like an empiricist who, I don't think, are you religious yourself?
I'm not religious.
Right. So you're kind
Uh,
of looking at this from the perspective of an outsider to try to
uh,
understand what's going on.
yes, I'm very much trying to figure out what's going on. And the more I look, the more sort of confused I become. And I'm trying to make sense of what's going on. But this is just the broad picture of the religious beliefs.
I guess the question is, how do you think China and Russia are going to react to this? Are they going to assist Iran in a way which will allow them to endure this upcoming onslaught, or is the country going to be destroyed?
So, in mid-August, Putin met with Trump in Alaska. And it seemed as though there was no progress in the Ukraine war. So after the meeting, you have these deployment against Venezuela. You have Trump allowing for more weapon shipments to Ukraine. So it seemed as though that meeting was for naught. It was just a pointless meeting. But I mean, like, if you switch perspective and say, okay, what if it wasn't about Ukraine, but what if it was about Iran, right? Let's just say, hypothetically, we don't know, okay, but the agreement was actually for that. The agreement was that Trump could invade Iran and Putin would not interfere. Now, why would Putin agree to that deal? Because Iran is almost impossible for America to invade. We're so used to 2003, the Iraq War, when, shock and awe, America just went in and just blew everything up. And then, within a week, the war was over. The problem is that Iran is all mountainous and
Yeah.
it's, a huge country, maybe 3 times the size of Iraq. So the problem is that America does not have the capacity to go invade Iran and occupy it properly. And I think that the American military will implode, will collapse in Iran, not because Iran will defeat America militarily, but mainly because America doesn't have the logistic capacity to fight a war of the scale that is required in Iran. And Putin knows this. So it's almost like a trap for the United States. You go in Iran, it's a bait, right? It's a bait. And so I think yes, America is going to go to Iran, but it's going to lose this war. And this will allow Putin to secure it will allow Putin to consolidate his grip over Ukraine and Europe.
So what do you think Iran's response is going to be this time? Because it seems as though they were definitely reining it in terms of their response last time. They were not using their full potential because they knew that they didn't have escalation dominance, probably.
Yeah.
How far will they go in terms of exacting punishment on Israel, knowing that ultimately, I mean, they're in a very tough spot because if they start to get the upper hand, then it's Samson option, right? So do you think there's going to be a race for nukes? Is anybody going to provide a nuclear umbrella for Iran, or is there going to be what about China's role?
Right. Okay. So, if you look at it from a game theory perspective, Iran cannot possibly defeat Israel and the United States in a conventional warfare. And as you point out, if this escalates too far, then Israel always has a sanction option. The United States can always choose to nuke Iran. And also remember that Saudi Arabia and Pakistan has to sign a mutual defense pact, and Pakistan has nuclear weapons. So if Saudi Arabia is drawn into this war, then Iran is on trouble. So from game theory perspective, Iran does not want to fight a conventional war with the United States and Israel. The only way for Iran to defeat the United States is to draw the United States into Iran and set the trap. Okay? And so the best option for them is to close the Strait of Hormuz, right? Because when you close off the Strait of Hormuz, it's almost like a choke point on the global economy. You look at Southeast Asia, Japan, South Korea, China, they all depend on that oil from the Middle East to fuel their economies. And so there will be tremendous pressure on the United States to send in ground troops to relieve the choke point. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think maybe in the second round you have more escalation, but the big question is whether or not Iran closes off that Strait of Hormuz. And if they do, then America will be forced to send in ground troops. And slowly this will escalate into a full-scale ground invasion of Iran. I don't know the actual timeline, but I think that's the gist of what will happen. And this may take another year. This may be 6 months. Who knows? Okay. But it's going to be, a very prolonged process because remember, both sides are trying to maintain as much strategic flexibility as possible. And both sides are trying to win the information war. They're trying to win the war of public opinion. So no one wants to blame for destroying the world, basically. When it comes to China, theoretically, China is very dependent on Iranian oil. And theoretically, China will defend Iran if there's an attack. And that's why Trump's next move is very important. I predict the next 3 months, Trump will visit China and there'll be a major rapprochement between the United States and China. And there'll be lots of concessions that Trump will make that make China look very good. For example, Trump may say that I promise to not allow Taiwanese independence. And this will be a major, major concession to China, right? That's the thing that China really, really wants, a guarantee from the Americans that they will not support Taiwan independence. And maybe there'll be relaxation of tariffs, okay? But I think in the next 3 months, there'll be a major rapprochement between China and the United States. And publicly, it will seem as though Trump has won. But behind the scenes, because what matters is of course behind the scenes, I think that China will allow the Americans to do what they want to do in Iran. So I think that's what will happen in the next 3 months.
Don't forget, daily updates are waiting on the Prepper News channel. Link below.